What's going on? Let's talk about the Pioneer Carry Panda 2.0. This is currently my favorite bag, period. If my house was on fire and I could only snag one bag with me, it would be this one without hesitation. I'll explain why that is, talk about the things that I absolutely love the most about this bag. Is it perfect? No. I'll share some nitpicks that I have with it, but what it does well, it does so well for me that it makes the nitpicks worthwhile compromises. I'll walk you through it, pointing out some of the things that improved compared to version 1, which came out around a year ago. And then lastly, I'll get into the pricing. At $395 US, understandably, it's going to deter a lot of people, especially given the fact that there's so many great options in the $200 range. And while I definitely wouldn't recommend this bag for someone that wants the most bang for their buck possible, but with that being said, I do genuinely feel that there's going to be people with very specific use cases in which this will be a very worthwhile investment for them long term. So let's get into it. The three things that this bag sparks the most joy in me are the rugged luxury aesthetic. The pockets are easily my favorite pockets in the world, especially these two, but all of the pockets are absolutely masterful. And lastly, the material selection, the combination of their in-house mandarin, ballistic nylon, zipper choices, the liner. There's so many tasteful touches throughout this bag that bring a smile to my face when I interact with them. So starting off with the looks, if you're spending $400 on a bag, you're gonna wanna love what it looks like. And to me, this bag strikes such a perfect balance of ruggedness and luxury. It reminds me of an old school Land Rover Defender or a wax canvas Barber jacket. The kind of person rocking this bag is someone with an adventurous spirit, someone that likes to get their hands dirty, but also someone with a refined taste and appreciation of the finer details. I think if you take this bag and you compare it to an Air or an Able Carry, for example, I don't put them in the same bucket of bags. This bag has a classic heritage timelessness, something that you would pass down as an heirloom. Like, I'm gonna give this to my son when he's like 21 years old. It's kind of like this is a well-made pair of leather boots, and then something like an Air, for example, is like a well-made pair of sneakers, something that is maybe a little bit more practical and comfortable for day-to-day, but it doesn't invoke, at least for me, the feelings that a bag like this invokes. I think really a closer comparison would be to something like a Tumi, that adventurous executive segment of bags, which Tumi, I would say, pioneered. Maybe someone else did before them. But when I look at Tumi, yeah, it's got a little bit of a tactical look, but I still find that it's too polished, a little too luxurious for what I like in a bag. I just don't identify with it as much as something like this, that even though you can see subtle traces of inspiration from Tumi, I think has a very well-defined identity in it of itself, has more of a stealth wealth, less pretentious vibe. And this forest green color, I mean, I feel like there's certain products that just make too much sense in a specific colorway, and the Panda just comes to full life in this forest green color. Second thing that I love about this bag are the pockets. When I say pockets, I mean like literally every single pocket is a joy to interact with. I'm gonna focus on these two because I feel like they are kind of the stars of the show and they contribute a lot to the overall design language of the bag. But I find that in most bags, there are pockets that I use a lot, and then there's always pockets that I'm like, I never use it, or it ends up being a little cumbersome or tight to get into. But there's always some good pockets and some not good pockets. With this one, there's not a single pocket that I would change, add, or remove. When I walk you through it, I'll get into the other ones, but I'll explain why I love this system and the way they've executed it in this bag. When it comes to bags, I really value quick access, and quick access is typically found in the front. Sometimes in the top of the bag. Those are the most intuitive places to snag your things. And what I generally struggle with is finding a place for bulkier things, specifically my over-the-ear headphones like AirPod Maxes or my camera. More often than not, I end up resorting to putting those things in the main compartment, which isn't my ideal place for them. And sometimes there are pockets that do work for bulkier things, but because they share space with the main compartment, when the main compartment starts filling up, those compartments end up getting harder to get into. Pioneer Carry has done such a phenomenal job of creating independent volume within these pockets. They are so comfortable to get in and out of. It kind of reminds me of just like my most comfortable cotton hoodie, just sticking my hands in that kangaroo pouch. They feel right at home. It's kind of a similar story with this one. It's the independent volume. The opening is really nice and spacious. And they include these refreshingly simple sleeves with a very luxurious liner fabric. So top pocket, I throw my sunglasses and I can get in there super easily. And then I have an additional space up here for something like smaller tech pouch, or this is their co-pilot pouch, which actually there's a better place for it. Well, not necessarily. This is also a really good place for it where you can keep your passports. But the absolute game changer for me is this bottom pocket, right? Take over-the-ear headphones, for example, and they fit like super easily if I want to take them out. Really easy to do. What shocked me was putting my camera in here, full frame mirrorless with a lens and the ND filter attached to it. And it's not just like that it fits, but I can actually put it in, take it out, put it in, take it out effortlessly, which is incredible. If you look at, for example, the Air CityPack Pro 2, right? You get the top compartment in the front, which is great for organization for smaller things, which you get that here in the top one. But then in the bottom, if they executed something like that, this pocket ends up being pretty cumbersome to get into, especially for bulkier things. And when you've got stuff in the main compartment, it gets even harder to do that. But then you take something like the Able Carry Max EDC, which has their phenomenal front stash pocket, right? This is super spacious. It's great for bulkier things, but you end up getting a lot of wasted vertical space depending on what you're putting in here. If you're putting in something like shoes or clothes where it's taking up a lot of that vertical space, then it makes more sense. But if I throw my over-the-ear headphones in here, right, like they go in really easily, but then you're not gonna wanna be like stacking stuff on top of it. And then you have all of this wasted space. Whereas on this guy, you have just some more clever use of space, and you get best of both worlds, a place for your bulkier things and a place for your smaller things, which is fantastic. The last thing I'll say about the pockets is that you also get best of both worlds in terms of top-down access and crossbody. My natural preference when it comes to accessing my things is top down, but there are definitely scenarios where having something like a Max EDC and having that crossbody access is really valuable. But with this bag, the way they've implemented these trapezoidal gusseted compartments, especially this bottom one, is if I'm wearing it and I put it to the side, like I can actually use this just as effectively as I could a vertical slash pocket to get my camera or my headphones or whatever bulkier thing I might want to access without worrying about it coming out. And then you also have the water bottle slash multi-purpose compartments here on the side. So this is also a great place for you to put something else like their co-pilot, and that fits really nicely as well on that side pocket. And then the last thing that I love about this bag is the overall material selection. Pioneer Carry's been making wallets since like 2016, and one of their biggest differentiators is the fact that they've designed and developed a lot of these like really sophisticated, both refined and rugged. So the whole shell fabric, this is their proprietary A40D Mandarin ballistic nylon. If you compare it to Corduroy's ballistic nylon, which is what you see in most bags today, yeah, it just feels more refined, like both tougher and classier. It definitely elevates the look of the bag. It is subtle, but when you put it side by side to, for example, this isn't an apples to apples comparison because this is a 1680D, but just this looks more intricate, more sophisticated than the Cordura one. Then for the liner, they're using a high tenacity nylon, which just feels so good. And it looks so good, especially the contrast of this safari brown with the forest green on the back. It just looks really elegant. And lastly, the zippers. I love these chunky zipper heads, but really interesting to see YKK Vislon zippers. These puzzle-shaped looking bigger teeth zippers. It makes so much sense with everything else in the bag aesthetically in kind of a paradoxical way, because typically Vislon zippers are used in, I don't know, like more playful products. But to me, as far as zipper smoothness goes, since the teeth are bigger and there's less friction, it's a different feel from like a YKK RC zipper or an AquaGuard zipper, which those are more like zip, and this is like but as far as like one-handed zipping goes, like most of the zippers in this bag, like I'm just, yeah, like of course you're gonna be like grabbing it somewhere, but it's like very, 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 very effortless and an absolute delight to interact with these zippers that I think also make the pockets so enjoyable. Now, if you haven't seen any of my other videos, I do a Pilgrim churn butter smoothness rating on every bag that I review. And that score is typically more heavily weighted based off of like the zippers that I use the most and which ones like are super smooth. Like right now, my favorite zippers are the main compartment zipper in the Simple Commuter, the main compartment on the Air City Pack 2, not the Pro in the Ultra version, and then the PGY Tech 1 Go-To, the dedicated laptop compartment. Insane zipper. And they're all PU coated zippers, which is crazy. But in all of those bags, there's very good zippers and zippers that are not that great. In this bag, every single zipper is phenomenal. I wouldn't say that any of these zippers on its own is better than any of those, but the average of all of these zippers is definitely higher than the average on any of those other bags. So like, this is gonna get the highest score I've given a bag from a Pilgrim churned butter smoothness rating, which is a 9.6. Yeah, it deserves it, for me at least. Vislon, the zipping experience maybe is not for everyone, but to me it is just like, it never gets caught, especially with these like sharp angles. Look at that, man. Main compartment, like I need to grab something, of course I do. And then these guys, like every zipper on this bag is a work of art. So yeah, 9.6, this is the new golden standard of zippers, for me at least, for my own reference. Okay, now as far as the Nitpicks go, the main ones are the shoulder strap comfort. It's still comfortable, it's not a deal breaker, and I am a freak with comfort. One of the reasons why I love Air and Able Carry bags, because they are so insanely comfortable. And then the fact that they did not include a sternum strap or strap keepers, which was initially a Nitpick, and now it's like evolving into mixed feelings, but still on the side of Nitpicks, and I'll explain why in a second. But yeah, with the shoulder straps, this was actually an improvement from version 1, that they just added more padding or better padding or both to both the shoulder straps and the back padding area. And one thing to keep in mind with this bag is it's very clear that so many of the design decisions in this bag are rooted from creating a product that is going to try to outlive you. So including a very soft, plush mesh padding like what you see in an Air or an Able Carry bag. It's again like the difference of a nice pair of athletic sneakers and a pair of leather boots. Like the sneakers are going to be more comfortable. If I'm going traveling, I'm probably going to want to take those sneakers with me, but the leather boots are going to outlive those sneakers like 5, 6, 7 times over. again, as long as you take good care of them and resole them when needed. So it's not that they're uncomfortable, but there is definitely, they're a little bit stiffer than what I'm accustomed to. I've been using it nonstop. And when I have it packed out a little bit more heavily, over-the-ear headphones, laptop, tablet, tech essentials, things like that, when I'm walking around, maybe at like the 30-40 minute mark, then I start feeling like some digging in my back. So again, as someone that is very particular about comfort, where comfort is usually the first thing that will be a deal breaker with me on a bag. For me, it's not with this one, but if you are looking for a bag that you're gonna regularly one bag it with, or you're commuting a semi-significant distance every single day and you value comfort, then this probably wouldn't be my first choice because there's better options out there comfort-wise. One other thing to note, I actually do like the bag padding, how it protrudes. The luggage pass-through creates kind of like a quadrant similar to the City Pack Pro 2. But again, another decision that is rooted from making this thing last forever is the fact that they're using the same ballistic nylon shell here instead of a mesh padding, which is what you typically see. So if you live in a very hot and humid place and you're a sweater, then yeah, this is not going to breathe as well as something like a mesh padding. But I guarantee you this thing 12 years from now, compared to my Air or Able Carry, this thing's probably going to be chugging along and it's going to look great when I pass it down to my son if he wants it. And if not, then she'll stay with me. And then the second nitpick, the sternum strap and strap keepers, it's very interesting because this is a backpack where you can tell, like Henry, the dude that founded this company, the designer behind it, you can tell it comes with a very strong design philosophy in what a bag should be. And maybe I'm wrong, but I'm perceiving that it was a very intentional omission of the sternum strap and the strap keepers. Even though I've gotten accustomed to having those things, and I still, all in all, think I would rather have it, and I'll explain why in a second, there has been something so refreshing just going back to basics and not having something just jangling around when I'm not using it, just being able to throw the backpack on. Same with the strap keepers, right? Like you put the bag on, you adjust it, but then you have to kind of adjust the strap keepers. There's just no thinking, just put the bag on and live your life. So in that sense, I definitely appreciate it. I think for me in particular, there's two reasons why I would still like to have the ability to have those things. Is A, if I'm traveling with this, either one bagging or using it as a day bag, having a sternum strap really does help with the comfort. If these straps were significantly more comfortable, then I wouldn't care for it as much, but because they are lacking a little bit for me in terms of just padding and comfort, having that sternum strap really helps with the weight distribution and just optimizing the comfort. And secondly, and this is more specific to me, but I have a motorcycle that I ride a decent bit and I've ridden with this bag, and I definitely like the additional security that comes with having that sternum strap, making sure that the straps are nice and snug, and also with the strap keepers, just preventing the webbing from just flapping around everywhere. I like to keep that tidy. So yeah, I think at the price point, and I know that they're not omitting it for cost savings because they definitely didn't make any compromises anywhere on this bag. I think it was more of an intentional statement from the design on what this bag is trying to achieve, both aesthetically and that feeling that it invokes when you're using it. But yeah, still in the end of the day, I think having a removable sternum strap would be nice. And then strap keeper wise, yeah, I could see something more of metal hardware, clip instead of just an elastic band, because you'll see they really don't get into the world of stretch mesh or elastics anywhere on this bag in the sake of longevity, which is maybe also why they didn't use strap keepers. With all that being said, let me walk you through the bag. Shell fabric, already talked about this, but they're using their in-house 840D Mandarin ballistic nylon, which feels phenomenal. YKK Vislon zippers. You've got the bottom compartment here, which I already talked about in length, but they have a key leash here. That's a piece of webbing with a clip, and it's not fixed to the bag, which I really like. The one thing that I didn't find was maybe another place for it, but this is regardless, I think, the best place for your keys. They have a very simple sleeve design. They're not using stretch mesh. If you've seen any of my other videos, I love stretch mesh. It feels so good. It keeps things secure. It conforms to your smaller things. This is, again, one of those design choices geared towards making the bag last as long as possible everywhere in this bag. With stretch mesh, the elastic will inevitably loosen up over time. This feels like, yeah, like this is how you would do a bag that's gonna last forever. The liner material feels really like rugged and luxurious. Like everything about this bag is just rugged and luxurious. There's no like dividers or segmentation here, but with a material like this, you wouldn't want it, because if any smaller than this, then it gets hard to put your hands in. But they've really like thought through the whole, like, how can you get in and out of this bag, putting your things in and taking them out as easily as possible while still providing you with a peace of mind that everything is staying really secure in there. So you have a big one in the bottom, and then you have another one here in the top. This for me is where I keep my sunglasses, which is perfect. And then you have a lot of additional volume here for anything else that you might want to throw in there. On the bottom, this is an Evergood's Cap 1, which standing vertically, it fits. You can also fit it sideways as well, however way you prefer. But just to give you an idea of like how spacious that is, that it's both vertically fits that and horizontally. Then on the sides, you have these zippered compartments that are multi-purpose for water bottles or for whatever else you might want. This is one of the improvements coming from version 1, that they made them taller. So I think it keeps something like a water bottle more secure in there. This is a 32-ounce hydro flask, and it fits like pretty perfectly. You can put something taller. I personally wouldn't. I don't know where my Owala is at the moment, the 24-ounce, but that one also fits really, really well in there. When you're not using them, it's nice that you can zip them. And then crossbody access-wise, if you want quick access to something, so like this is actually where I keep my mobile battery bank on this side, and then I keep the water bottle on the other, but it's just like a great pocket. And even though they're tall, your hand fits. Like I have not huge hands, but like decent sized hands, and they go in and they reach the bottom super easily because of, yeah, they're just masters of the pocket universe. In the top, you have a fantastic grab handle. This is removable. I like it with it on because it just feels more comfortable in my hand, and it's just a nice accent piece. And then you also get luggage tag, which I actually removed. It's a nice to have for anyone that likes that. It just kind of reminds me too much of Tumi backpacks, and not that I dislike Tumi backpacks, but yeah, I've just never been one for like having a tag on a bag. I don't know. I'm never gonna check this thing in, and yeah, I guess I can lose it, but I'll just keep an air tag in there or whatever. But I've never lost a bag in my entire life. I'm very attached to my bags, but yeah, it attaches really easily as well. All of the metal hardware feels great. Love the matte black, and then just the zipper heads are the perfect length, the perfect thickness for me. The way they articulate makes it just really effortless to glide this zipper in whatever direction you might want. Then on the back, you have super heavy duty piece of webbing for the luggage pass-through, vertically oriented. The bag has a full top-down access orientation, so it makes a lot of sense. And also the bag stands on its own. From what I've gathered, all of their bags stand on their own, and as it should. I feel like once you've had a bag that stands on its own, that becomes a very important checkbox that you're not going to want to sacrifice. I already talked about the shoulder straps. They look great when they're on. They're beefy. They like the stitching. Everything feels top notch. They're using a nylon liner material on the inside instead of just like an air mesh. Same thing with here, but since these are the places on the bag that are getting probably the most abuse from just wearing it. This is where the sacrifice in comfort for something that's going to last forever comes into play. And then the laptop compartment, another improvement over the first version. I never saw the Panda 1.0, but one thing I did read about was that it didn't really have a false bottom, which for a bag of this price point, like that's a pretty important thing. So you'll see a sleeve here in the front, which suspends your laptop and it fits in really comfortably. So you can technically like fit your laptop and something like a tablet here. But if you want the laptop in the suspended position, which I imagine most people will want that, it gets a little tight here. And the fact that it's deep, yeah, I think like a tablet, you won't be able to like put it in and take it out as easily as you would want. But I do like the utilization of this space. It drives me crazy when there's a dedicated laptop compartment, but you end up getting all this additional space that you're not using for anything else that cannibalizes the space from the main compartment. And you have the same liner nylon that they are using in the straps here. It's got like a satiny finish to it. And then in the main compartment, clamshell opening, like, did you see how like easy that was to access? They did something super clever. When I first saw this, I was like, it was the one pocket where I was like, I'll probably never use this, but you'll see here, they have these two mesh pockets, and this is the only mesh that they're using, another improvement over version 1, but it does have a little bit of stretch, but it just feels like about as tough as stretch mesh can get. Feels fantastic. But the sleeve here, what I love about it is that, say I throw in like a little notebook up here, which fits perfectly. Where they've situated that pocket on the bag makes it so that even though like this bag doesn't have a top quick access pocket, it does with that, in the sense that you just like open it a little bit and it's literally right there. Makes it super easy. So I think for bulkier things, I wouldn't put something small like AirPods in there, but something like this fits perfectly in there and you can snag it without having to fully get into the main compartment. And then here they have that same Safari Brown ripstop liner. They have a little sleeve here, which is where I would put my iPad. Across from it, you have two mesh compartments. You see this, and I feel like this is becoming very standard in like 24-liter bags and higher, you know, more like travel EDC hybrids, having these two pockets. I usually end up using this one, and this one's like for my things that I don't need to access as regularly. But again, with the pockets, they've done such a great job of creating volume that you can get your hand into easily, because oftentimes these pockets are really tight and it's just not a fun experience getting in there. And then lastly, the main compartment itself is like just such a good use of space. Plenty roomy to pack for a 2-night trip with all of your tech essentials, with clothing, all of your tech essentials and what have you, while the bag still looking compact enough for everyday carry. When I saw it in pictures, it just looked like it would be too bulky. And for me, like 18 to 20 liters is kind of that sweet spot for EDC. So I'm very curious about their duration and Savant bags. But one thing I can tell you right now is like these two pockets that are the way they've designed them, where they're trapezoidal, they're gusseted. The duration pack looks to be kind of like the baby Panda. So I'm curious to see if the pocket game is as strong as in this one, but I don't feel like the bag looks or feels too bulky while I'm wearing it. If you compare it to the City Pack Pro 2, which is 24 liters, so 1 liter technically smaller, I mean, I feel like they're in the, it feels slimmer, even though it has like these baggy pockets, and it's a little bit shorter than it as well. But I'd say they're both like in the same family, where they just, for me being 5'8", 140 pounds, it doesn't look like overkill And sometimes it's nice just like having the extra room, even if you're not using it. But for me, especially with kids, like the extra room is always welcome. If you compare it to the Max EDC, like look how much taller the Max EDC is than this one, and just, you know, bulkier all in all. Like this for me is a phenomenal bag, and it's insanely comfortable, like definitely more comfortable than this, but this bag is kind of the best of both worlds, organization pocket wise, of those two bags, sacrificing a little comfort, but a look that to me is really in its own tier. Also quickly show you two other Pioneer Carry products that are pretty sweet as well, especially the materials. This is their co-pilot, which is essentially a place for you to keep your passports and other travel essentials. Another material that they developed in-house, this is their baby ballistic nylon. So it's a finer woven material. Definitely feels smoother, like a baby ballistics bottom. And on the inside, they have this really elegant dark green 10XD, I want to say, which is another like in-house performance fabric that they've made that feels both elegant and tough at the same time. It can fit up to 6 passports. Here I've got mine, my wife, and my 2 kids. So usually when we travel, and by usually always, I am the dedicated passport carrier. And then you've got additional slip pockets for smaller things, boarding passes, things like that. You also have an external PU-coated pocket. What I really like about it is just the size factor, that it's like just for your essentials. The same applies to this guy right here. It fits perfectly into the side pocket here. So if you're like in the airport, you're in travel mode, you can do some crossbody action, take out the passports when you need them and put them back. Or if you've got your bag on the suitcase, then I would just put it up here and just easily access it top down as well. My only minor nitpick with their co-pilot is the zipper head is kind of small, and then when you unzip it and you open it up, it goes kind of inwards. So if you were to close it, it's just hard to get your fingers in here to snag the zipper head. I've just found like the trick is when I'm like going to close it, I just have my finger already on the zipper, and then it's super easy, but pretty minor thing. And then they have their Safari Sling, which is super simple. It uses the same 840D ballistic nylon, the YKK Vislon zippers, and it's very compact and very simple in design. You have a sleeve here, good place for sunglasses, the main compartment, throw your phone or whatever, and then you have a zippered compartment here. But when I'm like walking my dog or like riding my bike, and I don't need to take a bunch of stuff, AirPods, sunglasses, phone, things like that, this works really well. And then the way that the straps attach to your body, it stays like really close to your body, which I really like. Everything's nice and easy to access. Okay, so final thoughts. As I alluded to earlier in the video, $395 is going to be a big psychological roadblock for a lot of people to overcome. In the world of backpacks, right around the $200 to $250 price point, I feel like that's the sweet spot where you're getting really, really good value and a big jump in overall build quality and materials compared to bags that are like somewhere in the $100 to $150 range. But then once you cross like past $250, then you're entering the world of diminishing returns. So for anyone that simply wants the most bang for their buck, there's brands like Air and Alpaca and Able Carry that you can look at that you'll find a good fit in. With that being said, if you're looking for a bag that you can have for the next 10, 15 years, even though they just introduced backpacks like a year or so ago, I can just tell that this thing is gonna last. The material feels super tough. These Vislon zippers, the fact that they're not PU coated, you don't have to worry about delamination. The fact that they're bigger teeth, they're much, much less likely to get caught on something and break. The fact that they're not using a super plush foam that will degrade over time, and that there's no air mesh padding here on the back. They're not using stretch mesh in the sleeves. And this is all backed by their 1,000,000-mile lifetime limited warranty. So you also have to factor that in. If you look at GoRuck, for example, their bags are in a similar price point, appealing to a different crowd. I think there is some overlap, I'm sure, but they also have one of the best warranties in the game, and part of what you're paying for is that warranty. And yes, that they're made in the US, but now a lot of them are being made in Vietnam, which is where this bag is made. And yes, $400 is a lot for a backpack. Everyone's in a different financial situation. Everyone values different things. But for me, if you use your bag like every day or like mostly every day, you're traveling with it, and if you plan on keeping this thing for 10, 15 years, while $400 is a lot of money, it's a worthwhile investment, in my opinion, like a no-brainer investment. If you love the look of the bag, you love the functionality, and the main thing is you're like, oof, that feels like a lot of money for a backpack. Yeah, I mean, you go out to dinner nowadays and you can spend $150, $200 like pretty easily. And that's 1 hour experience of your life. The amount of hours and moments and experiences that you will share with this bag over the next, 10, 15 years, I think for people that appreciate the finer details, $400 is also not that crazy. And especially if you compare it to, for example, Tumi, which leads me to my second scenario. If you are attracted to that adventure executive look in the Tumi family, or maybe Briggs & Riley, right? You work in a professional setting where how you look, how you dress, the bag that you've got on is a reflection of who you are. And I'm a big proponent of like finding products that can ignite a connection with, that I identify with. Like to me, so much of the connection roots from the fact that I love the outdoors. I feel like in many ways I'm a rugged person, but on the same token, I am very much a creature of comfort and someone that appreciates fine details. And the way this bag harmonizes both of those things, unlike any bag I've seen before, it's hard to put a price on that. So if that's the aesthetic that you're after, right? Briggs & Riley, for example, the closest bag to this one I would say is the medium size of their cargo backpack, which is 23.3 liters. It's like around $370, and it comes with their like insane lifetime warranty. But the Briggs & Riley, to me, just look-wise, it just looks too posh, too luxurious for my liking. And if you compare it to Tumi, I mean, there's so many Tumi bags out there, but I'd say probably one of the most similar ones is the compact version of their Brief Pack, which is 26 liters. That bag costs $625. It weighs almost 4 pounds. This bag is 2.7 pounds. Like that bag is a freaking tank. And personally, like I like the look of this bag significantly more. The Tumi, to me, I do like the look as well, but it just has a slight layer of that status symbol pretentiousness that I personally don't identify with, like the badge with your monogram name. And I get it for a lot of people. You get a new job, you want to celebrate that milestone. You're like, hey, I can finally like afford a really nice backpack. So you spend $600-700 on a Tumi backpack so that you can have the same bag that everyone in your office now has. I like the unique stealth wealth factor of this bag and the fact that it feels a lot more rugged than a Tumi bag. And not to mention, Tumi's also not made in the US, made in China. I think most of their bags are made in China. And it doesn't even come with a lifetime warranty. It comes with a 5-year warranty. If you were to tell me, hey, here's the Tumi Brief Pack or here is the Panda Pack, like which would you keep? I would easily keep the Tumi. And then I'd sell it and profit and buy this one. Not because I need the money, but because I just genuinely like this one a lot more. The only thing that gives Tumi a little bit of an edge from a premium standpoint, but again, also makes it feel a little bit more luxurious, is the fact that they'll include leather accents in a lot of their bags, where here there's no leather, but leather adds weight and weight makes bags uncomfortable. So I'm totally cool without the leather if it's under 3 pounds for what you're getting, which still feels like an absolute tank. So the last thing I'll say is just, if you're thinking to yourself, is this bag worth it? I think it's less of a question of is it worth it and more of a do you love it and can you afford it? And if so, there's only one Panda Pack out in the world. And if you identify with the look, you value the fact that it stands up on its own, how spacious the pockets are, which makes it delightful to get in and out of the bag, and you value products that have a sense of timelessness that you'll be able to use for years to come and it will still look good and feel good, then I just wouldn't be so quick to rule it out despite the price point. But other than that, kudos to the Pioneer Carry team. I genuinely wish there were more brands like this in this world. But best of luck and cheers.